Hello everyone. Welcome to another video. So, the US has implemented new rules on non-nationals traveling to the United States and who are intending to stay for more than 30 days. And of course, this will impact most of our Canadians here, who we call them snowbirds. So those are Canadian citizens or residents who have vacation homes in the US. So basically, what they do is every winter they will travel to the United States, to the warmer states, and stay there until our long winters are over. So let us get into the article that was published via the National Post. So it says Canadians planning to travel to the United States may be affected by a new policy that would have them register if they are south of the border for more than 30 days. So the policy came into effect under the Immigration and Nationality Act on March 9th. And this is in conjunction with an executive order, which is called Protecting the American People Against Invasion, which was put in place on January 20th by Donald Trump, which is trying to crack down on those heading to the United States, including Canadians. The travel policy comes amid rising tensions between the US and Canada with, our on again and off again tariffs on Canadian goods, as well as Donald Trump's repeated comments about Canada becoming the 51st state. Although some of the details have not yet been shared by the US Immigration, Citizenship and Immigration Services, such as the registration form and process, the agency has provided information about the requirements for Canadians and other foreign nationals with long-term travel plans. So, Global Affairs told the National Post in an email statement that they were aware of the guidance from the USCIS, which was published online on February 25th, where it says each country decides who enters its borders. The decision to travel is the sole responsibility of the traveler. So, what do we know about the policy? It says Section 1 of Trump's executive order states that millions of illegal aliens have crossed the American border or were permitted to fly directly into the United States on commercial flights and allowed to settle in American communities in violation of long-standing federal laws. The purpose of the order is to enforce immigration laws to ensure the national security and public safety of Americans. So what does the U.S. travel policy say? The USCIS has a web page with information about the new policy, again, which it is called the Alien Registration Requirement. It pertains to a section of the INA that says it is a duty of every alien now or hereafter in the United States who is 14 years or older and who is going to remain in the US for 30 days or longer to apply for registration and to be fingerprinted before the expiration of such 30 days. So basically, you can, if you're going for a 2-week vacation, you can go for a 2-week vacation without having without you having to do the registration. But say, for example, for whatever reason, that 2-week vacation is going to turn into 30, then you will need to find an office or online and register before that 30-day period from when you entered the US has expired. It says that the context contains those laws in effect on March 9, 2025. So registration is not an immigration status, and registration documentation does not establish employment authorization or any other right or benefit under the INA or any other U.S. law. So we now ask, do all Canadians planning a 30-day trip or longer have to register? No, some Canadians do not have to register because they are qualified to be in the US. The USCIS webpage explained that those who are considered to be already registered are foreign nationals, including Canadians, who were admitted to the United States as non-immigrants and were issued a paper or electronic form I-94 or the I-94W, even if the period of admission has expired. So these forms are the arrival and departure records for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for travelers who are admitted to the U.S., who are adjusting status while in the U.S., or extending their status, among other uses. The paper form is no longer provided to travelers except in limited circumstances, U.S. Customs and Border Protection says. Travelers who need to check the status of their form can do so online. The form has no impact on a traveler's ability to enter the country. Okay, so you not signing that form doesn't mean that you can't enter the United States. So you don't have to worry about that part. So what about Canadians already in the United States? So Canadians who are already in the United States must register if they are not qualified to be in the US as outlined by the alien registration requirement, meaning that they did not receive an I-94 form prior to their arrival on March 9. So I assume that is those who enter the United States by road, because I know once you arrive in the United States by air, then you will have to complete the I-95 form. So the USCIS says a significant number of foreign nationals present in the United States have had no direct way to register. Therefore, the agency is establishing a new form and process by which they may register. So, information for Canadians. How can Canadians register? Canadians and other foreign nationals can register with a form according to the USCIS webpage. The agency recommends that beginning on February 25th, those who anticipate having to register should create an online account in preparation for the registration process. What does it mean for our Canadian snowbirds? Retired Canadians known as snowbirds travel to the warm states, as I previously mentioned, during the winter months to escape the cold. This new policy means adding another step to their travel planning. There's an estimated 1 million Canadian snowbirds who head south each winter, and this is according to CBC News and the Globe and Mail. So the Canadian Association of Retired Persons says the upheaval in policy implementation demands vigilance, as failure to comply could result in civil or criminal penalties. So snowbirds should closely monitor evolving U.S. policies to ensure compliance and avoid unexpected disruptions to their travel plans. So what will happen if the Canadians do not comply? So failure to comply will result in criminal and civil penalties up to and including misdemeanor prosecution and the payment of fines. And this is according to the USCIS webpage. No alien will have an excuse for failure to comply with the law. And guys, just to keep informed about travel to the US, the federal government offers travel advice and recommendations about entry requirements to countries online. And as of March 10th, the web page does not have specific information about the new alien registration requirement. The USCIS says it will update its web page to provide additional information in the upcoming days. So before you travel, just make sure, or before you make any plans, just make sure that you go on the USCIS website to check for any changes to the US travel policy. Catch you on the next video.